Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like science has finally caught up with the ideology of woke lunatics. I have an article here from New York Post with a pretty damn funny headline. And when I read this headline, I thought to myself, you guys didn't know this already? I figured it was pretty obvious. The headline reads, woke people are more likely to be unhappy, anxious, and depressed, a new study suggests.
Who would like to share their feelings?
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
What? I can barely understand you.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that this is pretty damn obvious because if you look at any social justice lunatic, especially since we have social media now, right? So you can basically see all of this for free, very easily, readily available to you. The absolute meltdowns that happen on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It is really insane. And it goes to show that we already knew if you're woke, you're probably insane. Okay. You're probably not exactly very happy. And we know they're not happy, ladies and gentlemen. We call these people the fun police for a reason. They do not like happiness whatsoever. And they constantly need to virtue in order to feel anything in their lives because they're devoid of everything else. So let's get into this article, guys, from the New York Post. But of course, before we do, the fucking fists in the air. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. Yeah, this picture is very accurate. A bunch of women and white soy boys, of course. It says, is ignorance bliss? Psychological researchers in Finland have created an assessment to help measure an individual's commitment to principles of social justice and made some surprising findings across the Finnish population, including a negative correlation between progressive ideals and levels of happiness. Their findings, published in the Scandinavian Journal of Psychology, suggests other Western nations may see similar patterns among their socially conscious citizens. Similar. Have you seen what's happening to the absolute crazy left? I mean, they're losing their minds. They're transforming themselves into 100 different versions of genders, 100 different species. They're trying to say shapeshifters are the same as non-binary. I mean, they're all insane, every single one of them. And it goes to show that there is a correlation here between obsession with social justice and being unhappy or insane. It says study author Skari Latinen, I don't know if I'm saying that right, a senior researcher at the Invest Research Flagship Center at the University of Turku, remarked that the woke discourse has since worked its way into Finnish discourse. This debate was largely data-free, and it can be thus considered to be a worthwhile question to study how prevalent these attitudes are. He continued, no reliable and valid instrument existed prior to the study to assess the extent and prevalence of these attitudes in different populations. So I set out to develop one. Their research trajectory included extensive reading on intersectional feminism, critical race theory, queer theory, and other relevant academic disciples that inform critical social justice SciPost reports. The pilot survey included 851 adult participants, most of whom were associated with the University of Turku. After refining the initial scale, the study was expanded to a more representative national sample of 5,000 participants, distributed via Helsingin Sanomat, Finland's largest newspaper. In the end, their final critical social justice attitude scale identified 7 truisms of woke people. Oh, I can't wait to read this. Here we go. This is 7 truisms of woke people, ladies and gentlemen. If white people have, on average, a higher level of income than black people, it is because of racism. University reading lists should include fewer white or European authors. Microaggressions should be challenged often and actively. Trans women who compete with women in sports are not helping women's rights. Reverse scored. We don't need to talk more about the color of people's skin. A white person cannot understand how a black person feels equally well as another black person. A member of a privileged group can adopt features of cultural elements of a less privileged group. Where do I even begin? These are 7 truisms of woke identity politics, I guess, like just woke nature in general. It's ridiculous. Of course, they're all fucking unhappy. If you're constantly seeing everything as a microaggression, if you're constantly challenging everybody who you deem as being microaggressive, you are going to be a lunatic. You are going to lose your mind if you haven't lost your mind already. You cannot do this 24/7 and expect to be happy. It's just impossible. You're constantly looking for the bad in society. That's what these social justice losers do. They look for the bad in society. They try to highlight everything as a problem. Honestly, they don't even look for the bad in society because they're complaining about nonstop good shit in society. That's the problem. They're finding issues in society that doesn't exist because these people are privileged. That's the problem. They're privileged. They live very comfortable lives, so they need to find something to be upset about. They need to find something to fight for. If they don't, they're going to become so depressed, worse than they already are. It says the gender divide was probably most surprising to me, told the side post of Finished Attitudes. 3 out of 5 women view woke ideas positively, but only 1 out of 7 men. That's not really surprising at all. If you look at Gen Z numbers, a lot of Gen Z boys and men are going to right wing, and a lot of Gen Z girls and women are going extreme left wing. It's not very surprising at all. Women do this shit to themselves. They really do. They do this to themselves because they're very empathetic creatures. They want everybody to feel good. They want everybody to feel like, you know, they're loved. They want to feel like they're loved, and they want to feel like they're part of something. Women are very emotional, so they make all decisions based on their emotions most of the time, and they're not able to make logical, sound, unemotional decisions. So unfortunately, you end up getting most of them going to the extreme left because the extreme left that's how they recruit people. They recruit people based off emotions, not facts. They recruit people based off emotions. They recruit people based off the fact of, well, you can't be against this because if you are against this, you're going to be racist, and you don't want to be racist, do you? That's bad. That's a no-no. So they get people based off their emotions and trap them into that mindset and that ideology, and it ends up just ruining them. It says this was especially true of women in fields such as social sciences, education, and humanities. By contrast, participants who worked in STEM were more likely to critique social justice efforts associated with being woke. However, the most concerning finding was a relationship between mental health and agreement with the scale. Specifically, researchers found a high prevalence of anxiety and depression in people who believe the statement, if white people have an average higher income than black people, it is because of racism. More broadly, they found that those who identify as left-wing were more likely to report lower mental well-being. Then they warned against extrapolating their findings to international audiences just yet, particularly across Western nations. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I am not shocked at any of this. I'm not shocked at any of this. This all makes very much sense to me. I don't know about you guys. You can sound off in the comments, but this shit makes sense to me because if you look at your average like lefty, right? I'm not talking about any normal lefties. I mean, I don't know if there is any. I've only met a few, but if you look at most lefties, they're pretty much losing their fucking minds half the time. They're usually mentally unstable, and unfortunately a lot of them are women, so it makes sense. You know, their emotions are sky high, and if you catch them on the wrong day, that's it. You're gonna have an absolute meltdown that's worthy of a fucking video on TikTok, I'm telling you. It says the studies were quite robust with a sample size of above 5,000 and good psychometric properties, Latin said. However, the scale would need to be validated in North American samples in order to know how these attitudes manifest there. I encourage colleagues in the United States to study the prevalence of these attitudes in the country where they originate from. So it looks like they're going to try to bring this study over into the U.S. I can't wait to see the absolute crazy that comes out from this study. But, you know, obviously time's going to tell. But yes, I do understand and I do agree with a lot of what this is saying. It's very obvious. It's been very obvious for a long time now, especially those people who have lost their minds since 2020. I mean, mental illness has gone rampant in this country. It's gotten worse and worse over the last few years, and we're only going to see it get worse because nobody actually wants to help mental illness. Nobody actually wants to help mentally ill people. They removed the asylums. They did all that stuff. They took it away because they want people to run rampant. Now, instead of helping mental illness, what are they doing? They're advocating for it. They're literally advocating for it. They want you to be mentally ill. They push for it because if you are mentally ill, not only are you going to be more likely to be a victim for life, which they could profit off of, but you're also going to cause chaos around people around you, which will get them the control that they want. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.
Change places?